right, everyone. Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Tutors Talking. I am your host, Audrey Codner from ACG Math Tutoring. And this is basically a place where parents can get the assistance that they need on finding the right tutor for their child or even for themselves. So if you are watching this live, please go ahead and hit hashtag live. If you are watching the replay, hit hashtag replay in order to help with the algorithm. So for today, we have our tutor Nana, who is also a math tutor that is going to basically share a lot of herself and who she is and any upcoming events that's coming up for you guys to take part of. So please have me welcome Miss Tutor Nana. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in Ghana in West Africa. That's where I went to part of elementary school and middle school, and then high school. I went to high school in Ghana, and then I came here back for college. So I was initially born here. That's why I came. I say I came back. And then in college, I majored in math, and I always wanted to do education. But I had student debt, so I decided to go into economic consulting. I was an analyst at a consulting firm, and I enjoyed the work, but it wasn't my passion for education was still there. And so once I was done with my student loans and everything, I decided to branch into tutoring, which is what I'm doing now. I live in Massachusetts, and I have two little boys. One is 3 years old, and the other is 8 months. And I live here with my husband and my two boys.
All right, nice. And what age group do you usually tutor?
I do kindergarten all the way to eighth grade and algebra one. That's my sweet spot. But I have worked with older students too. I just prefer to stay within to hit algebra one.
Right. So you're like the opposite of me. I adore kids, but I gladly take them back to their mothers or their father. Like, okay, this was great. There you go. But I will take on like most of the older kids. But that's great to know because, especially during the pandemic, a lot of people are really seem to be struggling with the algebra one. Have you noticed that with a lot of your sessions?
I have, yes. It's just a lot of things happened during the pandemic here, and for some children they weren't able to catch up or haven't been able to catch up till now. And so it's been a challenge, like trying to bring them up to speed, but it's not insurmountable. We've been working hard. I've been working hard with some of my students, and they've made gains, so it's a good thing.
Yes. And then with everything that's going to happen, like what is like one thing that you notice with your experience that parents are looking for when they do want to search for a tutor?
I think the parents want, apart from the fact that they want somebody who obviously knows the subject matter, they're really looking for somebody who will connect with their child because there's a lot of tutors out there and a lot of teachers out there, but not everyone will be able to reach like every child. Each child is different and their learning styles are different. And so parents really want somebody who can connect with their child so that what they're trying to share with that child will be received by the child. Because not all the children want to do tutoring. So it's good if there's that connection between the child and the tutor.
Yes, because even though parents really mean well, they want to do what's best for their kids. Every parent does, regardless of how they're brought up and everything. But it's sometimes the kids, the reason why their grades are low, sometimes there's like so many other factors. So then when a kid's like, I don't want to do tutoring, I'm really good, I know how to do this. And they always do the head tilt, like, I know how to do this, mom. I don't need a tutoring. I don't want to be. But then there's other things, there's other aspects, not just like the math concept. And let's talk about organization. You know, that whole black hole called their book bag. So like things go in, but it just never seems to come out. So even like with helping with some of those aspects, it may be small, just like a small reminder that having someone else saying it just seems like it resonates so much more than like you as a parent constantly saying, where's your homework? How you doing? Where did you put this in? By having another person, to actually reiterate that for you. For some reason, kids seem to listen more from someone outside of the home. I
Yeah.
don't know why. If I did, I would be a billionaire by now. So
My son is a saint in other people's eyes. He's like, when we go out, people think he's a saint, but he trusts me, he's not.
he's really good. They're good at that. They're very cunning. So when it comes to your tutoring sessions, like what makes you unique?
I focus a lot on building problem solving skills, word problems, because that's where a lot of the trouble is. Um, a lot of times when I meet with the students, some students have they struggle a lot with a little with computation here and there, and so I work on those skills with them. But the one that I feel like is like the huge hurdle for most people is the word problems. When they see word problems, it's like it scares them off and they start to freak out. And so for me, my approach is to very much like deal with that head on. Like we're breaking it down, we're trying to figure out strategies, we're like tackling this so that you get used to it and more comfortable with it. And so I would say that that's kind of what sets me apart.
Yes, I know for us, and especially I have secondary fractions, fractions, word problems, really basically a lot of things dealing with multiplication, because I think that is probably that piece that a lot of students either did or didn't have. Because I generally, when I talk to my students, a lot of them will say, well, I had like 5 different math teachers in 1 year when I was in 7th grade. I know it's crazy. And then you'll have some people that are like, oh, I had a student last year that didn't have a math teacher until February. So nothing but subs, a lot of subs that didn't know math. So they were doing a lot of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, like 2-digit, 3-digit numbers. And I'm like, but you're supposed to be in geometry. So right. So I'm like, there's something, I'm like, mom, this is something bigger than a tutor. It's not like your child doesn't have your child doesn't have the exposure. So I can understand if they were exposed to the concept and they didn't understand, but because a lot of things you would think was already introduced, like there's parents that don't know. There's a latest craze that's going on now since the pandemic of teaching a whole year of math in a semester. So yeah, there's quite a few schools that are doing that now because it looks good on paper. I can do algebra 1 fall semester and then don't have math in the spring semester. Or yeah, I know.
That's like a recipe for disaster.
Or vice versa. Or if somebody wants to do like the fast track, they can have algebra 1 first semester, geometry second semester, and they'll get rid of all their 4 credits in 2 years. What was the premise behind it? I have no idea. But as a math teacher, as an instructor, the main concern seems to be a lot of kids will say it's just too fast. Like, have you heard that last year, especially?
Yes. I had one of my students, well, I won't say I've heard about cramming everything into one semester, but I have heard about just the fast paced nature of some of the courses, even with some of the way that teachers structure the courses, where it feels relaxed for a while and then bam, 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 getting to the end, they hit them with so much. And so I have heard that, and I have had experience, yeah, with students who've gone through that. Yep.
Yeah. And it seems like, especially the first couple weeks of school, most parents are like, hey, how you doing? The kids are going to say it's fine because a lot of people are starting to get acclimated. They're trying to figure out, are you going to be in this class? Are you going to be in that class? Like they're still trying to figure the class schedules out and the teachers. And if there was a teacher that all of a sudden decided that they're not coming back, all right, what can we do? So, of course, like the first couple weeks of school is about that, almost like a getting to know you. And then, like around the third, possibly the fourth week, bam, all of a sudden you're seeing tons of homework. Kids are freaking out, unless they're in honors or GT. It's usually by like week 2, the bam hits.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're going to see your kid change. Like it's almost like their personality just shifts, especially those kids that are making that transition from middle school to high school, like those 8 to 9, or even just any of the transition years, like from third to fourth grade. I don't know what was up with fourth grade math last year, but there was quite a few parents, well, I'll see them on Facebook saying, I need a tutor. My kid needs a tutor. And also those that are going from 6 to 7. Like those are the transitional years that you're going to need to get yourself some extra help. Um, Even if you start soon, don't wait. Like, do you notice that like there's some parents that will wait till like, okay, let me get 1 quarter underneath their belt, and then here they are with second quarter, they're like, okay, you need a tutor.
Yeah. That's actually quite common. It's more common than I wish it was, but that's just the reality of the situation. It's sad because like when by the time that the child gets a tutor, sometimes it's almost too late because too much of the year has passed. And so you might make some gains, but it would have been way better if it was tackled at the start of the year or even at the maybe in the middle of the first semester. Um, and so yeah, I see that it's very common. But unfortunately, there's not as much that a tutor can't do so much, I guess, at the end. And it would be better serve the student if that relationship was started like the year before earlier.
Because it seems like a lot of people want to see what their child can do. Can the child dig themselves or herself out of that hole? I have so much pride and determination for my child, and I know he or she can do that. But why have them dig out of a hole instead of like, okay, all right, I'm good. I'm right here on the surface. I don't have to dig myself out of a hole. Like I don't have to do that. So usually, like just even if you have a tutor, and I know some people are going to be like, Audrey, don't say that. But even if you get a tutor for a couple of weeks just to get them adjusted, and then when they're like, oh, okay, I'm okay now, that's better than let's wait a whole quarter and then you have to try to dig yourself out. So sometimes it's all about timing, and like you said, you usually get like a lot of people. For me, brand new people is like around February. Um, Sometimes I'll get a lot of people, like a huge flux, like in October. So don't wait until like, around Thanksgiving to finally get a tutor, because then if you're in a situation like I just said, if they're in a class, a full year class for a semester, I know Virginia's doing it. I know North Carolina's doing it. Georgia's doing it. Some places in Florida are doing it. And it's starting to spread because everyone sees it's not that, oh, yeah, this looks easy. 4 years of math, you can get it done out of the way. Boom. No, they need that time to process.
Yeah. And just to add to what you were saying, it's better to be ahead of the game than to be catching up. It's much, much better to start, even like you said, for a few weeks with the tutor, and get them situated and comfortable, and then build those foundational study skills because that's one of the most important things. So if they're able to do that, then they can stand on their own and then go through the rest of the semester or the rest of the year. But if you wait and nothing is changing for the student in terms of like study skills and anything, and it just feels like it's going to fall apart at some point, and we're just extending that time. We're just waiting to see it, but it's definitely going to happen. You do have some students who are able to pull themselves out, but that's going to be obvious because that student is going to, if the student has study skills, personal study skills, and can stay on top of their work, then they can kind of struggle through and come out. But for most students, that's not the situation. Most students do not have those foundational skills. And so waiting isn't going to really do much in terms of changing their scores or anything.
Exactly. That's an excellent point. So for you, what are some upcoming events or what are some upcoming things that's happening under your services?
So this summer, I am hosting problem solving classes for elementary and middle school students. We're going to focus on word problems. That's my sweet spot. I love word problems. And I want to kind of translate that passion and that joy for word problems to my students. I'll be using a lot of the Singapore approach to problem solving.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
the Ministry of Education of Singapore, they have outlined some problem solving strategies that are really, really helpful. And I will be using that as a framework to kind of help my students to figure out, like, if I get this problem, what should I do? That's the first step. Like, what are some things that you can check off, maybe like a checklist that you can kind of think through so you can attack them. And then, so it's a good class for students who are kind of okay with math, but need to really attack word problems. And it'll also be a great class for students who are good in math or who feel like they're good in math, but need a challenge, because the way the Singapore method works is once you learn those problem solving strategies, you can then apply them to really challenging problems. And so,
Okay, and when's that starting?
so that is starting actually next week, I believe, Friday. And so I have students signed up, and I still have spots open. So if parents are interested, I would love to have your children in my class.
All right. And then where or how can they contact you?
So on here on Facebook, they can contact me through my page, Math Meets Mastery on Facebook, and there should be a link on my page that takes them to a website, and that website has like a Google form thing that you can use to send me a quick message, and I'll respond within 24 hours.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean, especially for those people that I know everyone's thinking, oh, it's the summer. Why can't we relax? Like, they can't do that. All they're going to do is eat all the food in the refrigerator, play video games, maybe go outside, complain that it's hot, come back, play video games, eat more food. And then you're like, okay, how did I at least prepare them? So this just gives them some time. We're not taking the whole entire summer. We're just basically taking a bit in piece just for them to keep that brain going, because we all know that summer slide is a real thing. Now add that slide with the pandemic gap, it's huge. You would think the Grand Canyon was huge. No, it's not compared to what happens when these kids are not in school or not kind of revisiting and just processing. I know some schools have their summer packets. And, if you need some assistance with summer packets, I know I have a few slots open, and then probably Tutor Nana has probably a couple slots open for that as well. So you can get the assistance. And then, depending on how you like things, then we'll see what happens during the school year, because we're just here to support as much as we can. So thanks again, Tutor Nana, for stopping in to Two Tutors Talking. This was amazing. I'm usually like doing all kinds of little blips and blobs, but you know what? Simplicity is the key of life sometimes. So thanks again for stopping in, and thank you guys for stopping in for our next episode of Two Tutors Talking. So the next one is going to be a live episode with Robert Tavares, there we go, from Main Street Math Tutoring. And we're going to talk a little bit more about math and how we can help your kids. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.